Good morning and welcome to another Weather Word. Today's weather looks pretty calm over the country. You can see the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Beta moving into the Gulf Coast in Texas. It's bringing them some rain, but overall it's not too significant. Not very high winds and just nothing crazy in the rain department, I don't think. Maybe in very localized areas, but it's kind of a typical tropical storm, so nothing too impactful. People's lives will move on, and I don't see any big issues from it. Hopefully not. You can also see Hurricane Teddy is still there off the east coast. It's moving up into Canada. They'll see some impacts in, I think that's Nova Scotia or Newfoundland, but the islands of eastern Canada will see some moderate impacts, but the U.S. only waves and some maybe cloudy conditions right on the east coast of the Northeast, but nothing too concerning for us. And that's generally the theme today. You can't see it on the map, but the cool weather is lingering over the east still. I think that's been a positive for a lot of people. It's only in the 80s today instead of the 90s here in Orlando, so a lot of people are excited about that, and I think that's true over a lot of the country. And overall, pretty quiet over most of the country. Into tonight, more positive things. You can see there's a low moving in to the Pacific Northwest near Oregon and Washington. That's going to start days of hopefully good rain chances for the coastal areas, Portland, Seattle, even a lot of the Willamette Valley in western Oregon, and a lot of western Washington and up into Canada as well. And you'll see that just starting to move in. You also see a weak front starting to develop in the northern plains, Nebraska, the Dakotas. It's really not going to move a whole lot. In fact, as we go into tomorrow, you can see there's not a lot of changes in the weather map at all. The low's still there in Oregon, and that front's just kind of nudging south. It's not much of a front either. It's dropping temperatures from the 90s to the 80s, maybe 70s in a few spots for highs, but it's not doing a whole lot and won't make a lot of progress this week. You can still see the remnants of that low along the Gulf Coast, just kind of drag up towards Louisiana, Alabama, and bring some rain. Again, I don't think it's going to be crazy amounts of rain. It's not got a lot of convection, storminess with it, really, compared to most lows. There'll be some, and we'll deal, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for people overall. And you can see Teddy has moved up into Canada now. I'm not sure if it's going to make landfall as a weak hurricane, strong tropical storm. Either way, it's going to be transitioning towards a cold system, so it's not going to be quite the system we're used to. It's something eastern Canada, the maritime provinces, see quite often, but it'll be a weather event for them, but I don't think it's one that's going to live in memories of everybody for centuries to come. It's just a storm system. They'll deal and they'll move on. As we go towards Thursday, you can see that there's a new low. The low over the Pacific Northwest kind of splits. There's some extra low pressure moving into Canada more, and you'll see that kind of just continues across Canada. It doesn't really come down into the U.S. It'll link up with the system to its south, but it won't be a big impactful system. The rains continue over the Pacific Northwest, over Washington and Oregon, and still you have the remaining rains from that low over Louisiana, Texas, and Alabama, Mississippi. Notice the high pressure over the eastern U.S. starts to head east, starts to head out into the Atlantic and shift, and that's opening up the door maybe next week where we can start to get some systems that more press into the country. But as we go towards Friday, not a big change again, still the rains in the Pacific Northwest. I saw the models are showing 1 to 2 inches in many spots, Portland, Seattle, and maybe in the mountains that see more rain typically. They have rainforests out there along the Pacific coast and the Pacific Range and up into the Olympic Peninsula on the west of Seattle. They actually get a ton of rain, most rainy place in the U.S., I believe, other than Hawaii, the mountains of Hawaii. But they they'll get quite a bit of rain, maybe 3-4 inches, I think I saw in a few spots. So, hey, this is good for the fire danger. Wish we could get some of that down into California, but it's a very positive thing that the fires in Oregon and Washington, hopefully it's just a short, quick thing, and now they're out of here and we can transition towards cooler and rainier weather they're used to in the fall season. Maybe a little fire danger later in the week in Northern California, a little dry. It doesn't look crazy. It's not like it was weeks past. There's still the fire. I don't know if you've seen about it down around the LA area. That will be a focus maybe in the news. It's pretty big for their area. I don't think it's impacting a lot of structures, a lot of people right this moment, but it's still a developing story. So we'll see what happens with it, but no stress right now. If you're living right by the fires, obviously. But for us watching, we don't need to stress over every story, and I don't think there's a lot of people that are really seeing significant impacts from it right now. And you can see that low across Canada moved east, connected to that front. The front really didn't move a lot, and it's going to stall out and shift back north over the weekend. Not a lot of movement, not a lot of transition in the next system or two, not a lot of cool air. It looks like early next week, mid next week, we may get a little bit more organized of a low pressure to sweep down across the eastern U.S., hopefully cool down, definitely like Michigan, Ohio, places like that, and maybe get some cooler air again down into like Tennessee, maybe even manage the Gulf Coast. We'll see. It's tough this time of year, but we just got this one. And they're talking about a little low pressure, weak low pressure over southern Florida down into Cuba. Tropical. It doesn't look like it's going to turn. It's not going to be much anything that I can see. So maybe a little rainy weekend in Florida, but pretty common stuff for this time of year overall. So I hope that brings you peace, brings you hope, brings you encouragement. That there's no stress in the weather right now for anybody around this part of the world that I can see. And the stress that I heard them say on the news this morning, it's life-threatening flooding and dangerous conditions in Texas from Tropical Storm Beta. And I guess if you want to call it that, I mean, hey, you got to be careful and smart in situations like this when there's storms. I mean, anytime there's a thunderstorm, you got to be smart. But I don't think it's, man, panic, run for the hills. I've been through 50 tropical storms probably, and you go about your day pretty much. I mean, you go to work, you go to school, you go to the store, and it maybe it's raining and maybe there's a little flooding. You adapt to it. It's like a big rainstorm. Not even that big of one, really. Nothing like the 20 inches they saw in Sally a couple weeks ago, last week. But nothing too much going on. So I hope that brings you encouragement and peace. Coming up next, I got the first video of inspirational Bible verses along with some scenery I put together, and I hope it encourages you and speaks to you and that God works through the Word in it. I pray that you have a blessed day, a strong day, a sharp day, a peaceful day, and a calm day. And that you remember that there's only one today, so make the best of it. And I'm going to try to do the same. Lord willing, I hope to see you again tomorrow or sometime soon, and I hope the God of all glory, the peace of God, keeps your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. He is good. Have a great day. God bless.